From Washington, D.C. now is Ross Harrison. He's a senior fellow at the Middle East Institute. He's also the author of the book Decoding Iran's Foreign Policy. Ross, good to have you with us again. I mean, so it was just a few days ago that Trump was saying the war would last 4 to 5 weeks, and today he was telling US media the war is now almost complete. What's your assessment, Ross, of Trump's remarks today, and what's guiding his thinking about the length of the war?
Well, trying to get into the head of Donald Trump is a bit of a risky business for an analyst. But I can tell you that there seems to be some confusion, as you indicate, but in the timelines that the White House is putting out there. So either that's an intentional confusion to confuse the enemy, confuse Iran, or it's just a recognition that the United States cannot control the political endgame in Iran, even at the same time that they're controlling the military damage to Iran. And I think it might be I think for the Iranians, it's an indication that the United States is reaching its limit in terms of its capacity to deal with the political and economic consequences of this war. That's how I think it's being interpreted in Tehran.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Ross, isn't it? Because Trump again tried to justify the war by saying a nuclear attack by Iran was just days away and that Iran would even take over the region. I mean, that was all very confusing and will certainly raise eyebrows, certainly where you are. But again, it just makes it even harder to decode Trump's thinking because there doesn't seem to be any clear objectives for the war.
No, there aren't, and there's a lot of misinformation out there, as you indicated. I mean, Iran didn't have a nuclear weapon, and therefore had no capacity to wage any kind of attack on the United States or on the region from a nuclear standpoint. And it really lacked the ability, even using non-nuclear assets such as ballistic missiles, to attack the United States. And it had no real incentive until they were attacked. Had no real incentive to attack our Gulf Arab allies or Israel. So I think what you're seeing is either misinformation or a complete lack of understanding of the Iranian calculus on the ground in Tehran. And I think that's what you're going to see in the coming days. Hopefully in the coming days, you will see a broader recognition of the reality on the ground, but I wouldn't count on it.
So let's just talk about Iran's broader strategy, its calculus here and its attacks on its Gulf Arab neighbours, the point you're just making. How is that likely then to impact the trajectory of the war, and what would victory look like for Iran?
Well, I think victory for Iran is fairly straightforward, and that is survival, the survival of the regime. And if the regime can survive and it can inflict damage, then it does two things. It ensures its own continuation, and it ensures some kind of recreation of deterrence that the Iranian regime believes it lost at the end of the June war of 2025, where its response was a measured response. This response, in the very early days of the war, after Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was killed, the response was not a measured response. It was a response that basically broadened the conflict to the broader region. And I think the idea there, the strategic logic, was not necessarily desperation. I think it was the logic that to create enough confusion, number one, to deny the United States the ability to deal with all the contingencies that it had to deal with, and to create enough economic pain on our Gulf Arab allies to act as a deterrent against future aggression going forward. The Iranians are concerned that if they end this war prematurely, then it might be just a matter of time before the next attack occurs. And in this way, by creating confusion, creating economic pain on our Gulf Arab allies and on the United States and the Western world, that this would cause a pause, if not in Jerusalem, at least in Washington, in the future. Yeah, that's their thinking, I believe.
Americans are already starting to feel the pain of this war with higher gas prices at the pumps. Oil has crossed $100 a barrel. The global markets have been in turmoil. So are there economic ramifications of this war already forcing Trump onto the back foot here, Ross?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to know, Darren, to what degree Donald Trump is responding to some of the internal political pressure. I think what the Iranians are counting on, they're not counting on the internal political pressure in the United States. I think they're counting much more on the message coming from Riyadh and from Doha and from Kuwait City and from Abu Dhabi, that their economic model, which is basically built on an assumption of stability, an island of stability in the region. It's built on that they are suffering, and that these are the companies, these are the countries, rather, that Donald Trump wants to invest in the United States and want to buy military weaponry. So I think it's really designed to put pressure on Donald Trump, not so much internally in the United States, but externally from the U.S. Gulf Arab allies. That's my read of it, at least.
All right. So just a final thought to you, Ross, on some of the politics here, because Trump, of course, is well aware this is an election year with the midterms a few months away. Recent polling suggests that many Americans do not support the war, and Trump's MAGA base aren't happy either because he came to power on a promise of ending forever wars, and he's just started another one. So how is all this likely to play out politically for Trump, do you think?
Well, I think it depends upon how long-lasting the effects are in the United States. So if there's an economic downturn and you go into some kind of a recession, then that would linger and ultimately could very well control the midterm elections. I think Donald Trump will probably, should this end in a relatively short period of time, will move on to the next shiny object and will distract the public, the American public, as he has done since January 21st of last year, distract the American public and push the attention onto something else. So I think right now the November elections are not first and foremost, but if the conflict continues to hang on or to linger over a period of time and the effects of the conflict linger, then it becomes much more of a political concern heading into the midterm elections.
Ross Harrison, always good to get your thoughts and your analysis, Ross. Many thanks for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.